Hello, everyone. It's Kim from Fleece and Harmony, recording our bi-weekly podcast from our shop that is in our woolen mill that's on our sheep farm in Belfast, Prince Edward Island. This is episode 89, and you're watching this, if you're watching it the first day that it's being released, on February 7th, 2022. So it's amazing. We're in February now. So time is flying really quickly. If you're new to the podcast, I just will let you know that we talk about things that happen on the farm and in the mill. And we talk about knitting, of course, and I'm doing a few crochet projects. So I'm relearning and reacquainting myself with crochet. And we'll talk about projects that we're working on, and we have a shop update. There's also a farm update every week. We start with that usually, and there's a couple different segments that we will go through. And if you want to know what the segments are, and if you want to skip through the different segments, I always put the different segments in the show notes with the time signature so that you can skip things that you don't want to see or go right to the things that you're most interested in. And I'll just take a minute now to say, if you like the podcast, then if you could subscribe to our podcast at the end or anytime that you can, that would be great. And give us the thumbs up if you like the podcast, and comment as much as you want. I answer every single comment. And it's my pleasure to do so. I just love reading all of the comments that are made. So we're going to start off with the farm update. So we'll get right to that. And lately, the farm update has always been about the weather, and today is no exception. It's really, really cold. And it seems now like we have a snowstorm that warrants a storm warning every Saturday. So that's been happening for the last 3 weeks, I think. And the snow is piling up. So some of we have a guy that comes to plow the parking spot in front of the shop, and some of the mountains of snow now are taller than me. And last Friday it was snowing. It was snowing so hard that when I left the shop, which is right on our farm, I didn't know if I was going to make it home because there was so much snow that had accumulated just in the short time when it started in the afternoon until I was leaving to go back to the house. It was really something. And the weird part about it is all of the storms have a lot of wind associated with them. And what's happening is you still see bare ground in some places, and then these huge drifts in other places. So it's really quite something. And in that storm that we had last weekend, it went from -3 and then snowing. It dropped down to like around -6 or 7. Then it went up to +5. I think it got as high as +5, and it rained. And then it started snowing again. And now we've had like -14 or -19 every day since that storm. So it's all a bit nuts. And we have in the barn, when we give the sheep water and we provide water for the horses and the rabbits, we have frost-free hydrants in all of the barns. So they're on a long pole that is in the barn, so that the actual beginning of them is under the frost line in the ground, so they don't freeze. And then the way that they work is the water comes up, and then it goes all the way back down under the ground in this huge pipe. And that's how come we can have running water in the barns even though they're not heated. But the one in the main barn has some kind of a gasket that's deteriorated and needs to be replaced. But our plumber has ordered the part. I think it's been like 2 months. We haven't gotten the part done or gotten the part back yet. So what happens is some water comes out around the top of the pump. So every morning I have to bring my blow dryer out to the barn, and I have to heat up the frost-free hydrant, because overnight the water has frozen just around that top part where it's leaking. So, and it's all metal. So the minute I start heating it up, the heat radiates down all the way. I don't know where the blockage is exactly, but we can't really pull the handle up. And so I have to blow dry the hydrant for about 5 minutes every morning to get it unfrozen. there's that. And then today I was doing water, and I was filling Paige, the Angora rabbit that's in her little apartment. I was filling up her water dish, and I got water on my hands, but I just put them inside my gloves. They were a little bit wet, and it was cold enough that when I went to let myself out of the little paddock where her barn is, I took my glove off and I put my hand on a chain. We have these farm gates that are closed with a chain. So you loop the chain around and it goes through this little place where it catches. And it's a little bit fiddly. So I took my gloves off to undo the chain, and my hands actually froze to the chain. So not as bad as having your tongue stuck to a lamppost or whatever metal things that you put your tongue on or your lips on when you were a kid to see if it would freeze. So obviously it's my hand. It's not as sensitive, but it actually froze to the chain on the fence. It's unbelievable. So that's what we're dealing with, and they're calling for another storm this weekend. So by the time you're watching this on Friday, we're under another storm warning. So I guess that's just the way our weekends are going to be. It's a bit crazy. The animals are all good, and nobody seems to mind it. And I said, I think in the last episode, the sheep are completely in full fleece now. So their fleece is probably about this long or longer. So they're completely oblivious to the cold. It gets a little bit icy though when you have that freezing and thawing, and they don't, their little feet are they're on little high heels almost. So they don't go too far from the inside of the barn because it can get slippery. It's on the outside. So there's a couple, especially our oldest sheep, Diva, who I don't know how old she is. I think we figured out she's probably 15 years old or more. And she's a little bit slower in the morning and stuff, so she doesn't go out of the pen. Ken takes them all out of the pen, and then he puts a short gate over the opening of their pen so that he can put the hay in peace, so that they're not all mugging him for hay. And Diva's just decided she's not going anymore. So she walks around in the pen, and she follows him with the wheelbarrow, and she starts eating before everybody else, but she's not going outside. So she just refuses, and why not? We let her stay in because she's old and deserves it to have as much comfort as she wants. So she's I don't think she's been out for 2 weeks because of the ice and the snow. And quite content. She eats takes them about 15 or 20 minutes to fill all the feeders, and she gets to eat by herself for that amount of time. So she's happy. So that's the weather update and the farm update. Everybody else is great. There's nothing, no excitement, which I always say at this part of the farm segment is the no excitement is a good thing this time of year. And so I'm going to move right to my work in progress, which is still the Paisley. I've been building the button bands, and just when you think you've done the last crochet row on the button bands, there's more. So I'm just going to show what's happening now. So this pattern is all about the details. And it's really, really obvious when you get to the instructions on the crochet part. So for anybody that hasn't seen this before, this cardigan is called Paisley, and the pattern is by Sidsel Hoyvik, and it was a kit that I bought, and I'll just show you the back. So it's got this kind of waffle pattern on the back, and in the front you have the sequins. The sequins aren't on yet. There's going to be sequins. You have the Paisley design that's in the front. So what I've been working on after all of the knitting, I've been working on this button band and the neck band. And the first part that you embellish these bands with crochet. And the first crochet edging that I did was this light blue color that goes around all of the edging. So that's this color. And then the next thing that you do is you do this lavender part, which is this color, this bright lavender. And you do that all the way around the whole sweater, even on this bottom. This is a facing. If you haven't seen this sweater before, if you're joining me for the first time, this is a facing that goes up under the band like this on the bottom. And you had to crochet along the ridge, the folding band there. I'll take some close-up pictures so you can see. And so you crochet all along there. Yes, there's just the one row, and that's with this bright color. Now what happens is that I've also done that bright color along the very outer edge of the button band. And now what happens is that you take this brown color, this soft brown, which is the same brown that's in the bottom of the band, and you're going to do like an overlap over the outside of the button band. So I was, well, I'm not going to say horrified, but when I realized that you're doing all of this detail only to cover it up slightly with this brown yarn, and then it gives kind of like a stained glass effect, I guess, which will be lovely, but you're just covering over. So you're making these deep crochets. You're not going to be able to see it, and I haven't started it yet, but deep crochets going over. It's kind of like it looks a little bit like an old-fashioned over sewing that they do on the edges of wool blankets. It sort of looks like that a little bit, except there's some space in between the different stitches, and you do it with crochet. So then what you have is an effect of just seeing this lavender just peeking through that darker accent, and then you'll have a row of the brown will be on the top, because you'll have like the V's from the crochet will be on the top, and then these little divisions all the way along the band. So that's what I'm doing next. I thought I would have it done actually for this podcast, but I haven't done not a lot of knitting or crochet in the last 2 weeks. I've just it's really been kind of busy. I was doing like the year end for the business and stuff like that, so I've been kind of busy. So that's the Paisley, the work in progress for that. So not a lot to talk about, and I haven't worked on any other projects, my projects, except for the rabbits, of course. So then I'll just show you this edging here so you get a good view, and I'll take some, like I said, you've already seen close-up pictures because I've already showed them in the segment, I'm sure. So that's Paisley. So the finished objects that I have to show today, I'll talk about what I'm wearing first of all. So this is a Rowan pattern, a garment, and this is knit in Island Blend Fine. So I'll show some of the Island Blend Fine in the shop update, but it's a really soft yarn that is a nice blend of really soft fibers, but it has a really kind of a plumpiness to it. And as you can see in this poncho, it's called Hinchinbrook, and it's designed by Martin Story. And we actually have this pattern on sale on the website just as a separate pattern. And you can buy the Island, we carry all the colors of Island Blend Fine. So if you like this poncho, it has a straight edge on the side. And then it has this beautiful cable edging all the way around the front and the bottom, so in a diagonal thing. So it's kind of like a poncho, but it's not a full triangular one. You just have this kind of open part on this side. So these cables in this Island Blend just really pop. They're very squishy and beautiful. It really makes a nice cable work. And we're going to talk more about cables later on in the episode, because I'm going to talk about Nora Gaughan's cable source book. So this is what I'm wearing. And just to do the cables, this is a pretty easy pattern. It's garter stitch, I think. No, seed stitch, and then just the cables to be done. And it's really kind of like a rectangle and just seamed at the top of the shoulders. And you have, it's more like a wrap, but it's attached. So it's very comfortable to wear. Easy to wear. You don't have to worry about it moving around, and it's a really beautiful feel to it. It's very soft. So this is the FO for a garment. And Janet, who I talked about her knitting in the last podcast, she works with us. She's actually gave me a couple other pieces that she's knit with our yarns. So I'm going to show you them. So every now and then we make a yarn called Grizzly, and what we do is with all of the, I think I might have talked about this in the last episode as well, with all of the bits and pieces, like the ends of runs of yarn that we have with the fiber before it's spun into the yarn, we save all of that and we make a yarn that we call Garfield Grizzly. And that yarn, we don't say what the fiber content is because there could be anything in there that from what we've been spinning. So we always are making fun of, but laughing with Janet about the fact that she does the carding, and she's always watching what is coming for the ends of the fiber that she's carding, because she knows that there's going to be a batch of Garfield Grizzly. And the last couple weeks, what we've been spinning is Angora. We've been spinning sock yarn, which we had for the, we have mohair in the sock yarn. And we had the Iona bunny, which had the Angora rabbit in it. We also did a batch of Bell River DK, which has alpaca in it. And something special that's coming up in the next couple of weeks that is going to be super special, which I'm not going to talk about right now other than to tease you with that. And all of this extra fiber that's coming from those runs of batches is been gathering up. So I think we're going to have a batch of Garfield Grizzly coming up in probably another few weeks. Anyway, when the last batch that we had with Garfield Grizzly it was kind of a gray color because we had just spun a lot of Icelandic wool. So we carry a little bit of Lopi yarns because there is a registered flock of Icelandic sheep here in PEI. And we purchase fiber from that flock. And when we've done a batch of Lopi, then of course there's Icelandic wool in the Garfield Grizzly that we spin as well. So this was these mittens again. These are the solstice mittens from the Saltwater Gift book, and she's used. We had a color in Grizzly that we called Heath, and it was green and periwinkle color, and she matched that with the natural Garfield Grizzly, and she knit these beautiful mittens. But because it's got the Icelandic in it, they feel very much like a Lopi mitten. They're super warm and cozy, but it's a nice soft muted palette. And we were admiring them the other day and thinking that maybe we need to do the variegated one was called Heath, but maybe we need to do that for the next batch of Grizzly again, because it's really nice and subtle. So she made those mittens, Solstice from Saltwater Gifts. And she also made this beautiful cowl. And the colors that she used in this, it's kind of an unusual combination of colors, but it really, really works. So I hope you can see that, if the lighting is just right. The greenish color is spruce, and this is in worsted, Selkirk worsted. And she used spruce with A Night Without Stars, and then she just did one row of the pattern repeat with the Heath from Grizzly. So you get the idea of all the projects that I've shown that Janet does, is that she actually doesn't mind mixing her yarn. So Garfield Grizzly is just a little bit heavier than the Selkirk worsted, but not much, and it just works seamlessly. So this is a really, really nice, like very low contrast, because the color depth of shade of the Night Without Stars and the spruce is very similar. So it's really very subtle and gives this great look, and then just with a little bit of the Heath. And this cowl is out of the Buakili book from Kate Davies. Did I do that right? I think it's, yeah, I think I pronounced it as close as I'm going to get anyway. And it's called, so it's spelled Cochal. So I'm not sure, cowl, I think, is the name of the cowl that's in that book. And so Janet knit that cowl. And then she also knit this hat out of that same book. And this is done with the spruce. Yes, I think it's the spruce yarn with the heath. And look how beautiful that crown is. This hat is called Bunnet, and it's in the same book. Buakili. And it has this beautiful edge on it as well, which she did with the heath. But this pattern is really, it's a really great little hat from Kate Davies again. And that book, I was going to show it in the shop update, but I have it right here. So I'm going to just show you the cover of it, because it's kind of an interesting book. That's the cover. And but it has recipes in it, and she talks about there's like a lavender shortbread. We've talked about this book before because it's really kind of an eclectic book a little bit with the recipes, and then there's also some like felted items and things. Like all of Kate's books are just very it's more than just about the knitting. It's all a little bit like about culture and her inspirations and everything as well. So that's the book. We have that online if you're interested. And the patterns, again, everything will be in the show notes as well. Is Bunnet is the hat, and cowl, I think I'm going to call it, is the cowl. So that's Janet's work for that she actually made these a while ago, and she just brought them in for me to show, because every time she wears it, I'm always commenting on it because it's just so striking. This it's not an obvious choice to put the spruce with the Night Without Stars, but it really is really, really nice. So those are two other quick projects. So if you haven't been watching every podcast, I'm a garment knitter most of the time. I like complicated garments, but I've been going through a phase where I just want some short projects. So I'm showing lots of short projects so that people have a chance to do quick and easy things, as well as their complicated, more heavy lifting on the garments, because that's what I'm finding is keeping me sane at the moment. Just a nice pace. I do a little bit something complicated, then I do something fun and something easy. So if you need ideas for that, then these are a couple of ideas that you can use for quick projects. So that's it for finished objects this week. So the next segment is going to be with Betsy Campbell. And Betsy and I are making llamas together, crochet from cotton, and we're actually to the part now where we're starting to shape the body. So we're going to hop over to a video, and I was really so slow doing this part that I'm at one point I'm not even doing the crocheting anymore because I have homework to do. But you'll see Betsy explain about the next step in that process where you're building up the body. But if you don't usually watch this segment, you need to stay tuned for the beginning of it, because Betsy has quite the knitting story to tell at the beginning of this segment. So if you're not interested in the crochet part, then that's okay. But you should watch Betsy tell her knitting story at the very beginning. We'll meet you back here in a few minutes. Hi, so here we are for part 4 of crocheting llamas.
Yeah.
Yes, with Betsy and Kim. So we cheated a little bit this time. We did a little bit. The last time we recorded, it was more than 45 minutes, and I had to cut it down to 15 or so, so we decided we would do a little pre-work.
Yeah.
And we'll tell you what we did.
Well, and we figured you didn't have to watch all the individual single stitches
yes.
that were happening.
Yes, please. Yeah. So, but before we do that, we're going to talk about Betsy's sweater.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So this is a sweater that I made in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we had another lockdown.
Yeah,
here.
So we had lots of time at home. It's actually my daughter's sweater, who has kindly said that I can wear it today. And it is made out of, Kim and Fleece and Harmonies is what I always usually call it. Autumn birch for the main body, and then the cranberry scones, which I think
fantastic.
It's
the Selkirk worsted.
Yes, Selkirk worsted. Yes, and it's warm.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
And you need to say where the pattern comes from.
Oh, it's kind of ironic because it's from a book called Knits Men Want.
Right.
Which I think is hilarious because I promptly went to an all men's knitwear book and turned it into a more feminine sweater.
With flowers on it.
With flowers on it.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be like a bit of a hiking jacket style. They have both the option to make it with buttons as a button cardigan or with a zipper. So we've opted for the zipper, of course. And yeah, it's really cute. And I just added the flowers because my daughter requested that.
Right.
I changed the cuffs a little bit to get in the cranberry scone color. I think the one they make, it's all
one
solid color.
Yeah. And it has some little details, you said, like a men's hiking jacket, but you just removed those.
So it does like a reverse stockinette kind of pattern here. I made the same pattern for my husband, the actual written pattern.
That men love.
Yeah. He has like all these little jokes in it about, it's actually kind of a funny book that like what not to do, and if you want them to actually wear it, don't put all kinds of unique details. Anyway, you'll have to check it out. Knits Men Want.
Yeah.
It has reverse stockinette down here and down the side.
So we just removed it.
Yeah. Whoa.
Woo,
sorry.
Okay.
Flinging yarn.
All right. And do you want to talk about your bear sweater?
Yeah. So along with my great knitting success, I just got going this morning and thought, I'm just going to clean a few of this pilling off this sweater that I have. And
Not Fleece and Harmony yarn.
Not Fleece and Harmony yarn, no.
But you're right. People will recognize this
sweater I wore in the past. And I know, never go anywhere near your knitwear sweaters with scissors.
Especially just to take pills off.
So there it is, folks. There it is, right smack dab in the middle. Mm-hmm. First thing I said when I came in today was, Kim, help.
Yeah.
So at least I was able to catch the live stitches. So nothing is coming apart. I sat there and just kind of stared at it at my kitchen table for 20 minutes and thought,
what to do.
Yeah, I knit it from the top down. I could unravel all the way back and re-knit it, but that seemed excessive.
No, I don't think you'll need to. So we're going to ponder that.
Yeah, we'll think on how to fix it.
And there's 6 stitches on the bottom, on the bottom pin, and there's 5 on the other pin. So that's the first problem.
The first thing to figure out, because I think we need 6 on each one.
Yes,
right?
I think we do.
Because I did attempt to Kitchener stitch twice, but I'm not an experienced Kitchener stitch anyway. I'm sure there are many of you out there who will know exactly what to do.
Help Betsy.
Yes, and all of the videos that I watched in my panic moment said, don't panic.
Yes,
this can be fixed.
Yeah.
So
they even say, don't even look at it the same day you do it.
Oh, then I should just put it away.
In lace knitting, when you do something like that and you're going to panic and throw it in the corner or whatever, they say just, if it's in the evening, just go to bed and wake up the next morning and just... Did you just do this today?
I did.
Oh, it's just today?
Just today.
Okay. It's fresh.
So I finished this one today and made this a problem today. So maybe today is not a good day
I have to
approach
admit, secretly, I love it. Because
I did that?
No. Oh. I'm just glad it's not one of my sweaters. But that's just right up my street to try to figure that out.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I would be more than happy to just leave it with you and come back to a solved problem. Although I'm pretty much guaranteed to do it again.
What?
Not with scissors, but somehow put a hole in knitwear. Yeah. Anyway, that was my knitting adventure.
Yes. So we're just going to crochet to forget
Let's go back to what I can completely fix with my eyes closed.
Yes.
Ironically, again,
I had homework.
Yeah. And then I showed up and I haven't done it. So I'm going to try to catch up as we go along here. Do you want to tell them what I had you do?
If I can remember what we did. So we already had
there was no color.
Yeah, that's right. So we already had the increases and everything done, right? Okay. So then we joined the color. So I'm just going to take this out. So we did a join of the color, which was kind of neat because you start the crochet stitch with the white And then just when you're getting ready to do the loop to pull through, then you just put the new color on and
so
finish
you still
the stitch
get a tiny bit of a jog.
Yeah, there's a little.
But it's not as extreme. I don't know if you can see in there.
Yeah.
So it allows you to kind of just slip that in there.
Yeah, so it's pretty.
Oh, yours even looks better than mine.
And it's right under the arm, like kind of at the arm. So,
so you won't see it later.
Yeah, or actually that's his back legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, her or his, I don't know. Anyway, we don't know yet. Pink, well, I don't want to be too stereotypical.
I know, that's just too traditional.
Yes. So now that I've done my homework, which is four rows of just single crochet all the way around.
Yep.
And it's really, really interesting to see how once you start working with those increases, what kind of a shape that you get. So you're really starting to see how the musculature is going to form. And in the last episode, I had decided that this end is going to be my back end.
Yes.
Because the legs are just a little bit more muscular on the back.
Which makes sense.
This is going to be in front. But what I love about it is if you sit this on a table, you have a place to hold your nuts, almonds, and stuff to put while you're watching TV.
I seriously was like, what are you putting in there?
Not really, I'm just kidding. But it actually makes like
baskets.
I know,
not usually with legs.
No, I know, but look, it would be kind of cool because it stands up perfectly well.
Yeah, it does a good job because of those flat feet that we put
I
on
know, it's fantastic. So the next step is that we're going to have to start to do decreases now.
Yes, so we're going to decrease in the sort of back end to start forming that rump.
Okay.
Is the idea. And I'm behind, so I'm trying to talk and do this at the same time, but I'm not very good at it. So what we're doing now is Kim has decided this is her back end. So each round we're going to decrease a little bit. So it'll start closing this in. So she's going to go around, she's going to decrease here, stitch. Yep.
First we found out where the middle stitch was, the center.
Because we want 9 stitches across here.
Right.
That she's going to decrease on either side of those 9 stitches.
Yeah.
That just starts the first sort of stair stepping to closing that in.
Okay. So I picked a stitch here in the middle, and then I counted back 5 stitches.
Yeah, because 9 is not an even number,
so
but it works okay.
5 stitches. And then this is my marker for the beginning of the round. I put a marker 2 stitches beyond the 9 stitches, and I'm going to make my first decrease with those 2 stitches,
yep,
right?
That's right. Yep,
okay.
You got it. So we're going to do that. We're going to go all the way around, and then we'll meet you back here.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm over to the other side. So I've got 9 stitches in the middle. I have a decrease here, and 9 stitches in the middle, and then another decrease there.
Correct.
And now I'm just going to single crochet all the way around to where my first stitch was.
Which you did.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. And then what are we doing after that?
And then we're going to do another set of decrease, but this time only with 7 stitches in between.
And we're going to do that decreasing the center part.
Yep.
Till we have 4 rows. Is that right?
Sorry. Yep. So we're going to go around, then we're going to decrease. We're going to do 7 stitches in the middle there, decrease again, go all the way around, and we're going to do that 4 times, but changing the stitch number between the decreases each time.
So you're shrinking the amount of space that's in between. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we'll be back. So we're back, and I've gone around once, and Betsy's gone around 4 times.
Not quite. 4 times since we've been sitting here.
She had to catch up to me, and now she's on her second round of decreases.
But again, if we were sitting here knitting, I have a feeling it would be the opposite story. Because how many knit stitches have you done?
You're very generous. Oh. So you're very generous.
I've done a lot of crochet stitches.
What we've decided that we're going to do is we're not going to just sit here. I'll have homework to do, and Betsy's going to continue. So now that I've done my first one, I had 9 stitches between my first set of decreases.
Yes.
On my second round, I'm going to have 7 stitches in between. Yeah. And we've just been discussing, and I think you can pretty well eyeball it because you can see.
That's what I do. I eyeball because then I can put it where it looks right. Because for me, I've done a ton of these, and no matter what, when I count it, somewhere along the way, I almost always make a counting error.
Right.
So rather than depending on this very specific number of stitches, I just like to look at the shape of the animal I'm creating and decide where it needs to go. So we now are going to do, you're going to do 7.
Yeah.
So we want those 7 stitches in the center of the back.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I can see where my first decreases are. So they're going to be somewhere in between here.
Yes.
So then I'm going to have 7 stitches between.
Yep.
You've already done that while I was doing my first row, and she's going to have 5.
Yes, so I'm going to do a decrease on either side of 5 stitches.
Right.
And then we'll do one more row, and then we'll stuff after that.
Okay.
Which
Stuff.
you can do
Yeah.
even if you haven't caught up to that. We
Right.
can still stuff the
So
legs.
I'm going to keep stitching at my rate, and she's going to keep crocheting at her rate, and we'll be back when you have the decreases done.
In just a moment.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I've come back round and I did my 5 decrease. So you can see here, if I hold it sideways, hopefully, how we're starting to build a
yes.
slope is
Right.
what's happening. So as
Right.
we decrease those on both sides, we're getting that roundness coming into the rump there. Yours is starting.
So she's finished hers, and I'm still in the second row. That's why we're doing it this way.
All good.
But it's good to note like this difference in the size because my tension is a lot tighter.
Yeah, so for those of you who speak in row gauge terms, so here is where her row gauge would be significantly different than mine.
Right.
But it's okay. She's
Yeah.
just going to, overall, her proportions are just going to be shorter.
Yeah,
You're
so
just
it
going to
doesn't
have a shorter
really,
llama.
doesn't, like you can be,
No,
I'm going to be shorter and smaller.
Because your row gauge, as long as it's consistent, it's fine.
Yes.
It would be a problem if it started changing
Right.
significantly.
So I have to remain uptight.
Remain good and tight. But you know, again, I can't emphasize enough. For this, it's okay to be tight
Yeah.
because you won't have any holes where
Yeah.
stuffing is coming through. So
Right.
other than maybe being quite the wear and tear on your hands.
Right.
And just,
Yeah,
just
just to relax a little bit.
tense necks.
Yeah.
So this is the last round of the decrease all the way around. So I'm going to do a final decrease here where I'm going to decrease again on either side of 3 stitches. And then I'm going to stop here and I'm actually going to connect across the middle and I'm going to close up that there. And then we'll probably be good for this evening because we'll do some stuffing of the legs and we'll take up next week how to close that backside right
So
off.
this is it. This is the back?
This will be, well,
The top of the back?
yes.
Oh,
This
wow.
will be.
Okay.
We're going to have, we'll talk about it when we get to
Okay.
it. So we're going to go around
Okay.
one more time. I'm going to do that decrease one more
You're
time.
going to go around one more time.
I'll go around one more time.
I'll get 5 stitches made.
I'll meet you back here and then we'll explain how we're going to connect that centerpiece there.
Cool. Back again.
Yeah. So we've come back. I've come all the way around.
Oh wow! Look at that. Yeah.
You're making me feel like I'm crazy speedy here.
Yeah.
So we come back around. I did that last decrease here. So now again, you can
You
see
can
that
really
really
see how-
slope is
Right.
coming in.
Right.
So now I've gone around the backside and I'm going to come a little more than halfway. We want to, because now we're thinking about shaping a neck here. So we don't want to just do halfway, that's too close.
Right.
So I'm going to come, we'll say about 3/4 of the way around.
Okay.
And I'm going to attach a stitch right across. So this we can do live. Give me just a second to do about 4 stitches here.
I'm watching. I have to do that for my homework.
Entertaining. So I'm going to say about there looks good. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to chain 1 stitch to give myself just a little something to bridge that gap. Go directly across and hook in to the stitch that is right across from the last one.
From the outside.
From the outside, yeah.
Right.
Again, I just eyeball it because that's just how I work. So Kim can see me doing it here.
Yeah.
So I've gone in from
Maybe
the
if you just
outside.
go, so you're
Yeah,
going
so I've-
in
from the outside.
From the outside.
Pull it in and just make a stitch. So now I do have 1 chain stitch across there that I can use that will come back around. And then next week we'll fully close that up.
Okay.
And we'll have the backside
Okay.
done.
Great.
And it'll be good to go. So what we need to do tonight still,
Okay. We're going to do it on yours.
you can do yours too because you're just going to do the legs.
Oh,
It does
okay.
add a little extra weight though when you're crocheting, which isn't necessarily as nice. But before we go much further, we want to stuff the legs, because as this closes, it just gets harder to get down in there.
Okay.
So I have polyester stuffing here today, but Kim brought over her
wool. Do you want wool, or do you want to use your polyester?
I'll just use the polyester. Okay. It's fine.
All right.
No worries. As I fling little shards of plastic around.
Recycled.
Yes, recycled.
Yes,
yeah,
it's recycled.
I try really hard not to. I don't buy it. I don't buy it new. I recycle it because it's here forever, so we might as well put it to use.
Right.
So we don't want to take a giant lump and just stuff it through. Actually, I thought it was perfectly wonderful timing. Andrea on Fruity Knitting had Mr. Dart, I forget his first name at the moment.
Alan
Dart, and he was talking about stuffing, and I was like, that's exactly what Kim and I are going to do. She stole it first. So, and he talks about making sure you kind of fluff your stuffing and take smaller bits and put them in. Don't try and just take a big giant lump and shove it all at once. So I do it in smaller pieces, and these are large enough you can use your finger.
Right.
He did talk about tweezers, but we're not working on that small of a space.
That was amazing.
His stuff was
crazy.
Just
if you haven't seen it, it's worth looking. If you're into amigurumi,
you should have a look, because the fingers, that's what completely.
Yes, he does fingers on it.
Oh my golly, it's so tiny.
And how? Because these basically stand up on their own.
Yeah.
So you're not really stuffing to make them.
I kind of keep that flat. I try not to make sure that
I'm
poke your finger. Pushing it out. Right. Yeah, exactly. So just sort of fill up all the legs.
You just want to fill it. You don't need. It doesn't need to be, because they're quite stiff because
I do cram mine pretty full.
Okay.
Because you will find that the cotton with handling will soften.
Okay.
Because whatever, I'm guessing there's a sizing or something that's in it, or just the dye from coming off
or
fresh.
just the fiber.
Yeah, because when you use it for your dishcloths, you'll definitely notice that if it gets wet, it softens. So if you're using it as a toy, it will definitely go more misshapen. I don't use mine as toys. They're decor.
Right.
I do give them away, and then what people do with them, that's their business.
Yeah.
But, so I do stuff it quite firm to try to keep that as much as possible. Then you're going to stuff your front legs, which we can do here. I have a bit more stuffing. So again, you're just taking your finger and also holding it, so that it doesn't go too you're not pushing out, so it's rounded.
Right.
So go ahead and fill all 4 of those legs. I didn't, but that's what you'll do.
Yeah.
And then we'll stuff it once more before we close this back end off next week.
Just to make sure it's full. It's amazing, the shape of it, but it's really, you can really see it.
Curving
I don't know how, and it curves out here.
Yeah, it's got like you've almost created kind of, like an 8 is what you're doing. And so then that pulls in sort of the belly.
Right.
I am working on one. I was just telling Kim, I haven't actually finished one in several weeks. I've been too busy knitting. But I kind of got off on one of my stitches at one point and increased, so I decided I'm just going to go with it. So this next one that I'm working on actually has quite the belly on it.
Okay.
So if I think of it, I'll try and bring that next week and we can see
the different shapes.
Yeah,
so you could really
And so how I ended up accomplishing that was just adding increases and decreases here. So it kind of makes a rounded bubble. And then you can also shape it when you stuff it. If you stuff a certain area with more stuffing, it'll be plumper.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. So now it's really,
so we'll get Kim with her homework. Yeah.
Yep. So I'll do my homework, and then I'll come back with the leg stuffed, and then the next time we'll
close that off.
Closing it off. Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Betsy.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so you can see that I'm really slow at crochet. I'm slow at knitting, but I'm really slow at crochet. So I just let Betsy go over. But how about that knitting story? I mean, the sweater that she made is beautiful. She did a really good job. And instead of she already had the button band on, and then added the zipper. So it's really cool. And but the cutting of the sweater was something else. So I guess we're gonna see how that gets fixed in the coming days. We'll have to do an update in the next podcast to see how that's, you know, nothing like taking the scissors to your sweater and cutting it not on purpose. So that's something. Anyway, I have to say it's kind of tantalizing to figure out how it's going to be fixed. So while we're on the amigurumi subject, we're going to talk about the rabbits, my rabbits that I'm knitting. And this was my relaxing project that I wanted to do where it was so hectic over the last few months, for those that haven't seen these bunnies already. So I'm on my second bunny. So the first, I'll reintroduce them. So my first bunny is Penelope. And these bunny patterns are coming from Little Cotton Rabbits by Julie Williams. And she does all the patterns, the clothes and the animals, and there's lots of other animals and stuff as well. So this was the first one that I did, Penelope. And then I decided to make a little baby brother for her. And he still doesn't have buttons on his clothes because I'm trying to find buttons that are small enough. And I can tell you it's not easy to find these buttons, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm holding out to find the right ones, but we'll see what I find out. So he's got his all of his clothes actually come off. So he's got his little sweater, which is a raglan sweater, striped. He's got his little coveralls that come off, and he has socks that are attached with a cuff. But now I'm knitting the sneakers or the runners or the trainers, whatever you call them. So I have one done. They're surprisingly complex. It's not hard to do, but there's quite a lot to knit. It took me almost as long to knit the shoe as it did to knit the coveralls or the sweater. But I think that they turned out really, really nice. So I've got the second one started. So I'll finish that and then he'll be done, except for there's a little toy that goes in his pocket too that I have to knit. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a hint about this. So all of the clothes, so the rabbits are knit with felted tweed, Rowan felted tweed, held together with Rowan Kid Silkays. And there's lots of color choices. I've talked about this before. And you can look in past podcast show notes if you want to see some suggestions for browns and things like that I've made. And the clothes are all knit in Rowan Summerlite DK. So that's what I'm doing the clothes with. So when I got to the laces of the shoe, I was going to just use the Summerlite DK as well, but it wasn't thick enough. So luckily, they have the same color in the hand knit cotton. So this is Rowan hand knit cotton. It's a bit thicker. So I used the Rowan hand knit cotton for the laces of the shoe, and it turned out just didn't quite look right with the finer yarn. So this little bit of thicker yarn makes them look better. So if you haven't seen this, I'm going to take off his shoe. So like I said, all of his clothes come off in this example, but the shoe is unbelievable. So you knit the little sole like that, but you even have like a tongue inside the shoe that's just attached like down deep inside here. So it's really just like a real shoe. It's really something. The attention to detail is fantastic. So that's his one of his shoes, and then I'll make the other one. Like I said, I've got it started, so I'll finish that off, and then he'll have his pair of shoes, and then he's done. So then I don't know what I want to do next, because I'm thinking that I need to make another little girl rabbit, and I think she needs a dress with kid silkays and something mixed with it. So I might switch it up for that. It's really addictive, and I know some of you have already written me and said, you know, thank you very much for putting me into this thing now, and you're knitting your rabbits of your own. And it's really, not sorry, because it's really, really fun. And it's amazing. I think I might have said this before, but it's amazing some of the skills that you learn. I mean, I've knitted a lot of garments and everything, but some of the little tricks and everything that Julie gives you in the pattern is you can tell that she must be a really accomplished knitter, because her attention to detail, but also the tips and tricks that she gives just as part of the pattern, just the way that it's written, have been really helpful. And there's been more than once that I said, oh, okay, well, this is a cool technique, because you could actually use this for a full-size garment as well, like making the pocket flaps. These pockets in here were made with pocket flaps, so they're perfectly functional. And you saw in the segment with Betsy that Fruity Knitting also had a toy maker on Andrea's last episode. Alan Dart is his name. And the amount of detail that you can get into doing these little projects is really, it's quite fantastic, actually. And I think it's such a good thing. So if you're like me and you like kind of, I like the details in knitting, and the projects that I do have details, even if they're not really overt. I like the little subtle shaping or subtle details in projects. And with these amigurumi patterns, that some people have really gone above and beyond to give like very extensive detail. And if you watch that segment on Alan Dart, you're going to see that he even takes it to a whole new level. So I would recommend that you take a look at that. So that's the progress on my bunnies. So probably the next time we see each other, I'll have another one started, because they're just really fun to do. And you saw that in the segment with the llama. The llamas are coming along pretty quickly now. I mean, the back and that, but I think that it may be a little bit of a bit of a trick, because you have the legs and the body done, but I'm thinking that when you get to the face, that's when it really probably takes more time to get all the expressions and everything just right. So I'm looking forward to that part, actually. So that's the bunnies and the finished objects. So we're going to go to the shop update now. And the shop update kind of overlaps the projects that I showed. And we already talked about Kate Davies' book, so we won't show that again. I wanted to talk about Island Blend Fine, because it's just a lovely wool. And as I said, I kept saying about the Hinchinbrook Poncho, that it's very squishy, and the cables really pop. And the yarn is a 3-ply, and it's made from 70% wool, 15% alpaca, and 15% silk. So it has this kind of luster to it. I just pulled 3 of the colors. There's actually 11 colors in this range. Most of them are pretty like muted and soft, even though they have like good depth. But then there are a couple real big pops, like a fuchsia and like a pear green as well. So it's a very versatile yarn, and it's just really delicious. So you have 50 grams for 180 yards in this yarn. So you can check that out on the website. And as I said, there is this pattern that you can buy separately on the website. So you can find that there. And we also have a little booklet called Island Blend, 4 projects for Island Blend Find. So you can also find that booklet on the website as well, if you wanted another idea for this lovely yarn. And I'm going to talk about cables a little bit. So when I saw these beautiful cables, I was reminded of Nora Gaughan's book, the Knitted Cable Source Book. So we just restocked this. We've had this book for a while, but we've just restocked it. And it really has everything that you want to know about cables. So it's like a stitch dictionary for cables, but she also has quite a good explanation about, tips and tricks for cables. And I'll just show you, there's some patterns here as well. But just quickly, I'm just going to show quickly, it's really just like a stitch dictionary. You have a picture of the swatch of the cable, pattern, and I don't know if I can get this to see, like I don't just put my hand, I know. swatch of the cable, and then the instructions on how to make it. And as I said, there's some patterns here, and she talks in detail about the how cables work and the tools and some tips and tricks. So Nora Gone was actually interviewed by Andrea from Fruity Knitting, and it's in episode 61. So I looked that episode up when I knew I was going to talk about Nora's book, and it just so happens that it's an episode where Andrew has just finished his Carbeth cardigan that he made for Andrea, and they used our yarn in that cardigan. So it was just purely a coincidence that I pulled out this poncho to wear. I thought, wow, those cables are really nice. I should talk about Nora Gone's book. I went to look to see where her interview was, and it was the episode that they had made the Carbeth cardigan out of our Aran weight yarn. And we actually developed that color specifically for Andrew to knit that cardigan for Andrea. And it was Meadow Paintbrush is the color. So if you check out Fruity Knitting episode 61, you have all of those things in there. So, and there's a really, really good interview with Nora Gone, and she's talking about this book in that episode. So you can check that out. We have a couple other books that we've restocked. So I pulled out the 10 Years in the Making book by Kate Davies as well, because this has some patterns that were famous over her 10-year career. So the famous owl sweater is in here. So if you're not familiar with that, it's this sweater, and she's actually using cabling to make the owls. And the Carbeth cardigan is in this as well, that Andrew knit. And there is we talked about this book a lot because we had a whole cowl about that. So there's just and I was looking up Kate Davies on Ravelry because preparing for the podcast. And every time, like, people would post in the cowl, the cowl is over now, but people were finding patterns of Kate Davies that I had never seen before. And I'm a big fan of Kate Davies. So I was like, some of these things I had never heard of. And then when she popped up on Ravelry, she actually has 160 patterns on Ravelry. So there's something for everybody. And her patterns are extremely well written. There's not a lot of, it's really like direct to the point, but very clearly written. And she gives you, points you in the direction of tutorials and things like that for techniques that you might need help with. So 10 Years in the Making is a great book, but we also carry all of Kate Davies' books on the website, so you can check that out. We're out of a couple. I have to place another order, but we stock all of her books. I just need, there's one or two. The Haps book we're out of stock, and the Yolks book, but we have everything else there from Kate Davies. And we got another new book in, and this is, we carry the two Harry Potter knitting books that were, their patterns are by Tanis Gray. So there's the first Harry Potter book, and then there's the second Harry Potter book, which is more garments, and there's a nice balance between garments and amigurumi and different things. But there is also a Harry Potter Harry Potter crochet wizardry book. So we just got this in as well. So if you're a Harry Potter fan or have a Harry Potter fan that is crochet worthy, then we have just gotten this book. It's hot off the press for us. So this that is in the shop as well. So you can check that out. And I'll just talk about the newsletter for a second. So we have a newsletter, and we send the newsletter out every Friday at 2:30 Atlantic Standard Time. And in the newsletter, we often give links, and we feature new items that we have in the newsletter, and we usually put it in the newsletter first. And then if it's something that's kind of a limited quantity, then the newsletter people get a first chance to look at it and to purchase it. And then I'll show things on the podcast if there's more of something, or if it's something that we're launching, something new that we're launching, then we'll show it first in the newsletter. So to sign up for the newsletter, you can go on the website, and in the bottom right-hand corner of the home page, there's a place there to sign up. If you've made an account on our website to shop, you're not automatically signed up for the newsletter. You have to opt in for the newsletter. So that's to protect your privacy. But if you have an account and you're wondering if you're not getting your newsletter, chances are that you probably clicked or you didn't click where you accept email marketing. So if you've clicked that you don't want any emails, it's in the newsletter is all we email. We don't do anything else. We only do it once a week, and it's that one thing that we do. And so if you want to be have the newsletter and you already have an account on the website, you can just go back into your account and click that checkbox. Or if you want to sign up just for the newsletter, then you can go, as I said, on the home page, and in the lower right-hand corner, you can find that. And the last newsletter I showed in the last podcast, I showed all the knitting that Janet was doing hats and everything. So Janet was busy working for the last week and making more hats, but these are to sell in the shop. So we've put these hats up to sell. So the hats are a double rib, a 2x2 rib. They've got this long, they're quite long so that it can turn up. So we think we're going to start carrying these in the store as a permanent thing. They have a pom-pom that's handmade by a gal that lives not too far from here. And they're snap-on, but they're really strong. So I always have trouble getting the snap off. There. So the pom-poms, you sew the bottom of the snap onto the hat, and then you can take the pom-pom off to wash your hat. And like I said, they're really strong because she doesn't want them coming off by mistake. I don't know if I can get that. Should snap back on. There we go. So you don't need to worry about losing your pom-pom. So these hats are up on the website. So we have, but it's really limited quantity because we just started to decide that we would carry it. So you have the red, the strawberry fields with the brown pom-pom. We have one in cranberry scones, and we have one in slate as well. So we'll be making more of these, but right now we have these 3 in stock, and you can get them on the website. So there's those hats. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about for the shop update is actually the Cocoa Knitters Block Kit. And we were out of stock in these for a while, so we're back in stock. So you have the kit, and in this kit you have a cloth which has 1-inch squares on it, and it's quite large, so you can block like a big sweater or a shawl or anything on it. And if you do need to do measurements, the squares are exactly 1 inch by 1 inch, so you're able to judge if you've got your thing blocked out to the right size. And then you have these pads that go together, and they actually have it feels like a little carpet on the top of them. And that helps to hold your project in place. And then you can use, there's T-pins that come with the kit, and you can use your T-pins to hold down your garment. You get 18 of these, so it's generous, again, nice and big. You have the bag to carry the whole thing in, and you have a can of the T-pins as well in there. So you have those. I think there's 30 or 50 in here. I can't remember exactly, and I can't see it on, I think it's 30. And so that comes with the kit. So I've had some questions about blocking. I probably should do a little tutorial on blocking, but I'll just give you a few hints about blocking just here for a few minutes. So when you block your garment, after you knit it, if you've never blocked your knitting, because there's people that haven't blocked, I didn't block anything that I knit up until just a couple years ago since I had the shop. But it makes a big difference to your knitting. It really finishes it off. And when you soak your garment for blocking, you leave it in the cold water for about at least half an hour, but I usually leave mine longer than that, like an hour or an hour and a half. I always use a bit of wool wash in the water. We use Eucalyptus is what we sell here. So, and if you've ordered from us, then you've gotten a sample of Eucalyptus because we give a sample in all of the orders that we pack. So you just use like a drop of the wool wash, and you let your garment soak. You don't have to squish it around or squeeze the water around. You just let it soak there for about I'm going to say an hour. That gives the wool time to really absorb the water and get thoroughly wet. Then you take it out of the water, and you squeeze the excess water out of your garment or your item. And you're not going to wring it or twist it. You just actually squeeze. And usually what I do is I do the soaking in a set tub, and I just squeeze the garment up against the side of the set tub to get most of the water out. Then I do the trick. You just put a bath towel on the floor, lay out your garment, and then roll it up like a jelly roll, and then I step on it so that you're squeezing out even more water. Then I get out my blocking mat, and I put together as many squares as I need for what I'm doing. And then I pin your garment. You pin your garment flat on the blocking mat with your T-pins, and you make sure that you've got your arms the right length, and you've got your measurements, and you use your cloth to make sure you have a straight edge like along the bottom. Then you can use your cloth for that as well. So it's a really good tool. And then you just leave it and let it dry there. And usually I'm letting it dry overnight. So those are just a couple quick tips for blocking that you can use, or that can help you for success. If you wet it and you take it out in 10 minutes, it probably helps, but you should really let it. The mistake a lot of people make, I guess, is that they don't let it soak long enough. So it takes a little bit of time, especially with your knitting, to get all of the fibers wet. And so you just let it soak there. And it's amazing what a difference blocking does. So lace knitters are used to this, and you have to block lace or else it just doesn't even look, it looks like a mess if you don't block it. But for sweaters and stuff, not everybody feels the need to do it, but it does really improve your knitting. So that's wet blocking. There's also steam blocking, and you can use that just by lightly steaming a garment. I've done that as well. I usually use steam blocking when I'm going to piece a garment, like sew the pieces together. I don't want to soak them and go through all of the real like wet blocking. And I just steam. And if it's something that's really delicate, I actually put a towel over, and I just let the steam kind of penetrate through, but I don't touch the hot iron to the wool in that case. And but then when I'm finished the garment, I'm a wet blocker. I like to do wet blocking, but there's other people that don't recommend wet blocking or don't do it. They just do the steam blocking. So it's really, really up to you, but it does really make a big improvement on your garment. So those are a couple hints for you. And I think that's about it for the shop update. So we're going to talk about the Fibre Festival now. So the Fibre Festival just today actually sent out an update to everybody that's on their mailing list. There's a link in the description below for you if you want to sign up for the PEI Fibre Festival newsletter. Now there's a lot of activity is happening because vendors are starting to be confirmed, and a few other things. So there's a website with a link. There's a link in the description below, so you can link to the website, and then you can sign up for the newsletter. There's a link below. And they're starting to list the vendors that are coming, and a lot of the people that they're talking to for like lectures and workshops and things those things are starting to come together as well. And the Fibre Festival will take place on September 23rd, 24th, and 25th of 2022. So, and it's in Charlottetown. There's a ceilidh that's planned, so there'll be a traditional maritime ceilidh with dancing. So we do what we call square sets in ceilidhs here, and we're going to be having that. And then there's all kinds of other things that are being planned. So you'll be able to get updates if you sign up for the newsletter. And I think that's about it for today. So I'm going to leave you with the harmony part. I hope that you enjoy it. So that's, if you're new here, that's just a few minutes of relaxation with some music, scenes usually from around the farm or walks that I've taken and so forth. I'm not sure what I'm going to put in it this time, but it's just a few minutes of peace and relaxation. And with that, I wish you a great 2 weeks, and hope that everybody is staying healthy. And I hope that there's some joy in your week, and that you have a great 2 weeks. And we'll see you back here in 2 weeks' time. Bye.